Chapter 1271 Feeding. The Burial Master and the golden-winged alien left the demon country's gate, which had now turned into a huge pool of blood. Zhang Yi was a little curious, but he didn't dare to really go close to check. He silently thought that the other two unidentified Ypsilons might approach. So he held his breath and waited silently in the distance. As a result, he waited for a full hour. Zhang Yi even thought that the two people had left. But finally, just when he was about to lose control, he saw the tall alien in black combat uniform return to the demon country's gate. The tall alien first squatted down and carefully checked the blood pool, then stood up and walked straight towards the gate. He waded through the sticky blood pool and came to the door step by step. For safety reasons, he held the guardian's shield in his left hand and the knight's sword in his right hand. After arriving at the gate, he carefully tested it and suddenly raised the knight's sword in his hand high and then slashed the huge door with one sword. Boom! The raging black flames filled the air, and the terrifying power made Zhang Yi, who was far away, feel the tremors of the earth. However, the dark red door did not move at all. The full-strength attack of the white chariot-level alien only left a deep scratch on the door, but did not shatter it. This shows how strong the door used to seal the demons was. Seeing this, the tall alien took a few steps back, seemed to ponder for a few words, and then left the place. Zhang Yi could clearly feel that the power of his attack was no less than his full-strength attack. This person's strength was definitely not inferior to his. Zhang Yi thought about it for a long time in his mind, and he didn't expect that there was such a master in Huashu country. If there really was one, he had never seen it. But the other party gave up attacking the gate of the demon country, which proved that he could not open it by his own strength. Then Zhang Yi and the others could not do it either. Zhang Yi waited for a long time again. He wanted to see if the golden-armored alien would make the next move. Sure enough, not long after, the golden-armored alien also came to the gate. However, he just stretched out his hand and felt the sword marks left by the tall alien, then smiled and shook his head, and then turned and left without hesitation. Zhang Yi only realized at this time that if he wanted to enter the demon kingdom, his own strength alone was not enough. It was a very special area that seemed to be able to suppress the alien power, and even Zhang Yi's spatial power could not penetrate it. Then there was only one way to enter the demon kingdom, that is, to follow the Pudge family after the Chuanzhao Dharma assembly. But who are these guys? A layer of dark clouds floated in Zhang Yi's heart. The 5 Ypsilons looking at the entire world today are a gorgeous top alien event. The last time so many Ypsilons gathered was in Shengjing. However, it is obvious that these people are not old acquaintances. When they fought against the Burial Master and the golden-winged alien, they all showed powerful strength. Even if they would deliberately conceal their abilities, they could not keep too much in that situation. Zhang Yi can be sure of one thing: Zhang Yi has never come into contact with these people. Because the characteristics of the alien's abilities are extremely obvious and not so easy to conceal. The situation here is too complicated. The master of the funeral of Songjia Temple seems to have known that we were coming. He deliberately laid out here and used our hands to open the seal of the demon kingdom. Is the Pai family involved? A chill flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. He even suspected that he and other mysterious Ypsilons were tricked by the southwest region. On the surface, they pretended to fight internally, but in fact, they used this as an excuse to lure many masters to come. But soon, Zhang Yi denied this idea in his mind. If the southwest region is an iron plate, they have enough ability to invite the aliens from various regions of Huashu country to come to help. After all, a united region, plus Ypsilon who has the power of Tantra and can reach the black chariot level of 20,000 points, no one dares to think about their demon kingdom treasures. There is no need to go around in circles to act. Zhang Yi rubbed his eyebrows. This question is a bit complicated. For a while, his mind was in a mess, and he couldn't think clearly. So he decided to go back to Yang Xinxin to discuss it and see what advice she could give. As for the gate of the demon kingdom, no one can get in now anyway, so just wait and see. There is still a week before the Chuanzhao Dharma assembly is held, which is enough time for them to do many things. After thinking about it, Zhang Yi turned around, used the intelligent system to determine his position, opened the dimensional door, and shuttled out of the Great Snow Mountain. On the other side, Leang Yu and Mu Yan were investigating the entire territory of the Pudge family. They hated the evil deeds of the Pudge family, but at this time they did not dare to act rashly. But at this time, one of the Pudge family's camps was attacked by the rebels. Leang Yu and Mu Yan looked at each other and immediately decided to go over and take a look. The rebels are a civilian force in the southwest region and are called the source of chaos in the snowy plateau by the four major chieftain forces. But at this time, watching what the Pudge family did made Leang Yu and Mu Yan think about the meaning of the existence of those rebels. Perhaps the rebels who resisted the four chieftains and Songjia Temple could represent justice. This justice should be put in quotation marks first. Before contact, no one could figure out whether they were good or bad. Therefore, Leang Yu and Mu Yan quickly passed through and prepared to spy secretly. This is a camp where serfs live. On weekdays, there are private soldiers guarding nearby. However, at night, there are not many private soldiers patrolling, only a few people with guns wandering around. In the snowy plateau, the private soldiers are not worried that these serfs will escape, because if they leave here, they have nowhere to go. Although they live like pigs and dogs here, and there is a risk of being sacrificed at any time, they can at least live a little longer. But without the protection of the four chieftains, none of them can survive a day. It's like a flock of sheep raised by a farmer. The owner occasionally slaughters a few heads, and most of the sheep can still survive. And the sheep that leave the farm can be killed by anyone. Even the leader of the private guards once joked that there was no need for chains to restrain these serfs. All they needed to do was draw a circle on the snow with a stick, and they would stay inside obediently and would never dare to run out. They would not think of this as a cage, but rather as a protection for them. But the most frustrating thing is that, in a sense, this is the truth. Chapter 1272 Snowwolf Zuma. The serf camp of the Pudge family. The flames shot up to the sky. In the vast night, the blue light was like a ghost fire outside the camp. Ah! The high-pitched wolf howl sounded, and the call of the head wolf caused the howling of the pack of wolves. A woman with long braids and a long whip in her hand rode on a huge, white wolf and rushed into the camp first. Behind her were hundreds of wild wolves crisscrossing the snowy plateau. There were more than 30 powerful warriors on the wolf's back. They were the forces on the snowy plateau that did not obey the Songjia Temple and the four major families, the rebels. The rebels attacked very suddenly. The power of the four major families was very stable, and the rebels had a very difficult time surviving on weekdays. Usually, the four major families tried every means to hunt the rebels, and the rebels' counterattack could only conduct guerrilla warfare against sporadic family forces. But this night, they chose to attack the Pudge family. The sudden attack of the rebels caught the Pudge family's private soldiers off guard. Soon, a large area of the camp was set on fire, and the flames shot up into the sky. The serfs ran out in fear, screaming desperately like sheep, or huddled together. The leading woman waved the long whip in her hand and easily destroyed a house. Without any pause, she tore down the surrounding walls and shouted at everyone, "Get out of here! You are free! You are not anyone's slaves, nor are you the chieftain's rations. Take up your weapons and seize the food and warm houses that belong to you." The serfs trembled, but when they heard these simple and clear words of encouragement, many of them had a light in their eyes. They are not slaves. The food that belongs to them, and the house? Yes, they were not born slaves. Before the end of the world, they all had a bright future. It was the blizzard that almost destroyed the world that destroyed their homes and deprived them of their qualifications to be human beings. Now, they are just livestock of the chieftains. Work for them, provide them with entertainment, and even become their food. Slowly, some people wavered and stood up. The surrounding walls were demolished by the rebels, and they could leave here. But where could they go if they left here? All the food was confiscated by the chieftain's private soldiers. If they left here, they would soon die of hunger and cold. The voices of the rebels lingered in my ears again. Down with these devils who eat people without spitting out bones. The food is ours, and the house is ours too. Only by killing them all can we live well. For yourself and your family, take up arms and fight them. Brave people are a minority, but brave people will always exist. Especially when there are role models in front of you, it is easier to inspire people's fighting spirit. Those private soldiers who hurriedly got up to meet the enemy were killed by the rebels who rushed in to meet the enemy, like cutting melons and vegetables. The heroic female leader waved the long whip in her hand, and with one whip, she could instantly cut several private soldiers into two parts with their guns. The rebels following her were also like wolves and tigers, not to mention that there were a large number of controlled wolves, also attacking the private soldiers of the Pudge family. I don't want to be a pig dog anymore. A young serf picked up a gun from a pool of blood, roared, and then pointed the gun at the private soldiers not far away. The private soldiers didn't expect the serfs to dare to resist. The young serf's shooting skills were terrible, but with a submachine gun at close range, as long as they could pull the trigger, everything would work. Several private soldiers were shot into sieves on the spot, and when they died, their faces were full of fear and disbelief. They seemed to have forgotten that the people they had enslaved like pigs and dogs for the past 2 years were people. They were people like them. Over time, people will be affected by the environment and become numb. People will no longer be people, and pigs and dogs will no longer be pigs and dogs. Only when they die, fear really exists. Leang Yu and Mu Yen came here very quickly through shadow movement. They saw what the rebels did from a distance, which made Leang Yu's heart become hot. Sure enough, under the darkness, there is still light that is difficult to cover up. Mu Yen poured cold water on her lightly. Light may not necessarily defeat darkness, and reality is not an ideal novel story. Miss Liang, you must not be impulsive. Everything that happened here has nothing to do with us. Liang Yu lowered her eyes. I know this, don't worry, I won't do anything. But what if we tell them the location of those imprisoned women and ask them to rescue them? Mu Yen said, people have to listen to what you say. Indeed, at this time, Liang Yu suddenly jumped out and said that she would give people information. How could people believe it easily? Maybe they thought they were from the Pudge family and deliberately led them to pit. Liang Yu was a little anxious. She was really worried about those poor women and didn't want to see them continue to suffer. But now it is indeed impossible to show up blindly, and you have to wait for the opportunity. The arrival of the rebels caused chaos in this camp, and the guards, the private soldiers of the camp, were caught off guard and were killed. But this was the base camp of the Pudge family after all, and the movement here soon alarmed Pudge Gesang. After hearing this, Pudge Gesang calmly asked, is the Snow Mountain Condor coming? The butler Lebu reported, no. The person who came seems to be the shepherding girl Zuma. Pudge Gesang said lightly, let Shonda lead the people over. Those who should be arrested, and those who should be killed, should be killed. Lebu took the order and retreated step by step. Soon, the real elite of the Pudge family was dispatched. A team of 20 chariots drove out from the courtyard of the Pudge family and headed straight for the serf camp. Although there were not many people, the equipment on the chariots was extremely sophisticated. Each chariot was equipped with a heavy machine gun. The most important thing was that the more than 100 soldiers on the car were all aliens. And the leader was one of the most skilled masters of the Pudge family, Shonda. The tank troops rushed to the turbulent area. Shonda was a dark-skinned man. He just glanced at the chaotic camp and saw countless wild wolves running wildly in the camp, gnawing at the flesh and blood of the private soldiers. Kill, he ordered coldly. The machine gunner on the tank did not hesitate and pulled the trigger directly. Blue flames spewed out from the muzzle. They cooperated very well and used firepower nets from multiple directions to surround most of the entrances and exits of the camp. Bullets cut through the air, making a harsh sound, and then the bullets shot into the flesh, and then the flesh was torn into pieces with the sound of puff, puff, puff. Chapter 1273. Angry King Kong. 4 high-level aliens, especially combat aliens. Guns are just toys. Almost only soldiers use this weapon as the main means of combat. Even Zhang Yi uses firearms as a medium to kill the enemy by releasing his superpowers. But in fact, for the vast majority of ordinary people in this world, and even low-level aliens, the lethality of thermal weapons is still extremely terrifying. Shonda led the elite chariot troops and arrived directly at the camp raided by the rebels. Then, they directly launched a ruthless firestorm on the entire camp. Bullets turned into dense rain of fire in the night sky, ruthlessly shooting at the entire serf camp. The wild wolves controlled by the rebels, the serfs in the camp, and even some private soldiers were directly torn apart by the powerful heavy machine guns, and flesh and blood flew everywhere like broken pieces of cloth. This ruthless and unhesitating attack made Leang Yu's eyes widen, and he subconsciously clenched his fists. "They are so cruel," Mu Yan said lightly. "A real killing machine should be like this, without any emotion, so that it can become the best soldier in the cruel world." Mu Yan was right. In the eyes of these elite soldiers, everyone in the camp died. As long as they could solve their biggest trouble, the rebels, it would not matter if more people died. In fact, humans are also a kind of creature with strong reproductive ability. No matter how harsh the environment is, there will always be a part of them that survives. Then, if they are given an unrestricted environment, they will reproduce, and scrupulously. The rebels did not seem to expect these soldiers to be so cruel. But since they were here, they were ready to fight. The woman riding on the wolf waved the long whip in her hand, and she put her fingers in her mouth and blew a loud whistle. The wolves immediately followed her guidance and roared towards the chariots. The rebels did not run away, because they knew that if they ran away, all the people in the camp who were saved with great difficulty today would die.
Run.
Run south, quickly. Someone will take you to the land of freedom. The rebels shouted to the terrified serfs. Most of the serfs huddled, buried their heads deep in their tattered cotton jackets, and covered their ears, not daring to listen to their shouts. It seemed that as long as they could not see or hear anything, everything would pass. They could still provide labor for the chieftain every day and live a humble life. But some people knew that staying would definitely lead to death. It could be seen from the actions of the chariot soldiers that they did not care about the lives of these serfs. Therefore, some people, under the guidance of the rebels, began to run desperately towards the distance. Zuma's eyes slowly turned into a layer of cold ice blue, and her body began to change significantly. White hair grew on her body, and her body grew nearly twice as tall. The muscles of her arms, legs, waist, and abdomen bulged firmly. She turned into a white werewolf, but her right hand still held the long whip tightly. Facing the dense rain of bullets, she waved the long whip in her hand. Walla dash! A layer of extremely cold air lingered around her, quickly turning into a circle of broken ice rings, and the long whip in her hand was also covered with a layer of sharp ice. Facing the rain of bullets, she swung the long whip in her hand violently, and soon the long whip directly extended dozens of meters long, and then circled around, forming an impenetrable wall of ice and snow in front of her. The bullets of the heavy machine gun could not penetrate this wall of broken ice at all. The leader of the soldiers, Shonda, was holding a pipe in his mouth, sitting in the chariot, squinting his eyes and looking at the sea of fire outside. War, flames, and the wailing of human death, such scenes made him excited. When he saw Zuma, who was the first to block him, Cheongda's eyes burst into an extremely hot and bloodthirsty light. "Senior cadre of the Resistance Army, I caught you today, but it's a great achievement. Even if you can't be alive, you can be dead." In the snowy plateau, the weapons mastered by the 4 chieftain families are not even as advanced as those in the Jiangnan region. They are not even qualified to mobilize the god of death of love. So when they encounter high-level aliens, the only way to deal with them is to send out high-level aliens as well. Shonda calmly opened the car door and walked towards Zuma with his burly body. The two had seen each other a long time ago, and there was hatred and bloodthirstiness in both of their eyes. They knew that they were each other's opponents. Zuma's eyes were cold, and her expression was a little solemn, because she knew Cheongda's strength. In the Pudge family, He was one of the top 3 strong men in terms of combat power, with an ability index of up to 9,700 points. Usually, opponents of this level are dealt with by her sister Bam. But today, Bam took a team out to ambush the monks of Songjia Temple, but never came back. As a last resort, she had to lead the team. Bang! Bang! Shonda's face showed a bright smile. He had a mouthful of white teeth, which was particularly conspicuous in the night. He hit his fists, making a sound like hitting a sandbag. Every time he took a step forward, a thick black smoke emanated from his body. Fog. After a moment, the black smoke enveloped his whole body. When he walked out of the smoke again, his appearance had changed drastically. He grew to nearly 5 meters tall, with black skin like metal, but with fiery red hair and a pair of huge eyes with upside-down eyebrows. Shonda, the commander-in-chief of the private soldiers of the Pudge family, is a reinforced alien with the ability code Angry King Kong. Hey! He was furious, but he laughed wildly at the corners of his mouth. He stomped on the ground with his feet and rushed straight to Zuma. A turbulent storm was set off directly on the spot. In order to buy time for the serfs who escaped, Zuma also roared and rushed over. The leaders of both sides fought together, and the aliens under their command quickly left the field and began to look for their opponents for a big melee. Leang Yu and Mu Yan hid in the dark and saw all this clearly. Mu Yan must always keep an eye on Leang Yu to prevent her from impulsively breaking out of the shadow space to help the rebels. Mu Yan felt that Leang Yu might do such a thing. Fortunately, Leang Yu is no longer the reckless girl she was before. She can think about the situation a little bit. But the current situation is not optimistic for the rebels. Judging from the effect of the raid, they did cause great damage to the serf camp of the Pudge family. But if they came to rescue people, it would add a huge burden to themselves. Especially the battle between Zuma and Shonda, it was full of dangers. Chapter 1274 Leang Yu takes action. Leang Yu and Mu Yan's attention was focused on Zuma and Shonda. The population of the southwest region is not large, and the number of high-level aliens is even smaller. If it weren't for the mysterious secret sect, it would be questionable whether Epsilon could be born here. So captain-level aliens like Zuma and Shonda are already extremely powerful. But it is obvious that Zuma's strength is not as good as Shonda's. Her body size is only half of Shonda's, and she is almost crushed by Shonda in terms of strength. Shonda's arms are like 2 huge vajra, aiming at Zuma's body and bombarding it violently, like piling without stopping for a moment. Although Zuma's body is smaller than Shonda's, her reaction speed is not advantageous. After just a moment of fighting, her several attempts to counterattack were ruthlessly cracked by Shonda. What followed was an even more violent attack.
Boom, 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 boom.
The continuous roar was like the firepower of an artillery regiment pouring down on the camp. Shonda's fist was more terrible than the artillery shells. He didn't care about the lives of the people around him at all. He only wanted to beat the female werewolf in front of him into a pulp. The aftermath of the battle directly caused the death of all the people who passed by, and it was even difficult to preserve the complete body. Just the energy of Shonda's fist could easily blow away dozens of serfs. Zuma held a long whip and used the method of transforming energy to resist Shonda's fierce attack with difficulty. However, the unloaded power was inevitably transferred to other places. There were people everywhere here, and the number of people killed by the battle between the two soon reached hundreds. Zuma gritted her teeth. They came here to save people, but now they let these people be involved in the battle and die. She was very helpless. But the battle had already started, and she would not be soft-hearted because of the death of these people. She was a warrior. There were no men or women in the warriors, only the living and the dead. People with soft hearts will definitely die. The terrified serfs' eyes almost popped out, and they cried for their parents in fear. Some tantric believers folded their hands and knelt on the ground in pain. Buddha, please punish these abominable demons. It is their arrival that has brought us disaster. They are all evil demons that harm people. Many serfs were terrified, and their eyes were full of hatred when they looked at the rebels. If it weren't for your arrival, we could at least live like pigs and dogs. But if you come, we will die immediately. Why do you want to stop us from being pigs and dogs? The suffering now is just for the enjoyment of the next life. You are disturbing our practice. But now, no one cares what the private soldiers of the Pudge family or the rebels think. Whoever wins is right. If the private soldiers win, they will be beaten, and as long as they are lucky enough not to die, they will continue to be pigs and dogs waiting for death one day. If the rebels win and take them away, they will also kneel down happily and call them the apostles of the gods. Liang Yu looked at the battle in front of her. Based on her experience, she judged that Zuma's comprehensive combat power index, that is, the ability index of a combat-type mutant, was only 9,500 points at most. Even a few months ago, when Liang Yu's ability index was only 9,500 points, she had a chance to kill her at close range. Her skills are too poor, and she has brute force and powerful abilities. If she continues to fight with Shonda, she will definitely be knocked down in no more than 5 minutes. Liang Yu didn't want the rebels to fail. She was already inclined to think that the rebels were the good guys. Moreover, she also hoped that the rebels could rescue the poor women in the dungeon. Liang Yu bit her lip and finally made a decision. I have to help them. Mu Yan looked at Liang Yu with no expression on her face. Aren't you afraid of exposing your identity? This may affect Zhang Yi's plan. Liang Yu said, Don't worry. I am proficient in more than 300 kinds of martial arts, including the stick and fists of Tantric Buddhism, and I won't let them recognize me. After all, the enhanced aliens are the most difficult to distinguish. But Mu Yan, you have to do me a favor this time. We have to find a way to let these rebels rescue those poor women. When she mentioned this, Mu Yan fell silent. I believe that no woman can bear to see the miserable state of those women. If the two of them don't seize this opportunity today, there may not be a next time. Mu Yan thought for a long time before slowly nodding. You must hide your identity, and I will take them to rescue people. Let me make it clear first, I won't take action. So even if your identity is exposed, it's only your own business. Liang Yu smiled faintly. Okay. On the other side, Zuma was forced to fight Shonda one-on-one, and she was completely beaten from the beginning. Whether in terms of combat experience or ability index, she was far behind the commander of the private soldiers of the Pudge family. She could only rely on the agility of the orcs to dodge, with difficulty. But if she continued like this, she knew that it would be a matter of time before she was defeated. Zuma's heart began to chill, and her teammates were too busy to come and help her leave. Once she falls into the hands of these guys, what terrible consequences will happen? She knows better than anyone. If that happens, she can only choose to commit suicide. However, just when Zuma was in despair, a cold woman's voice suddenly came from her headset. I can help you deal with this guy. The combat uniform Zuma wore was seized from the Tusi's private soldiers, and then some intelligence systems were simply modified. This equipment is quite old, and the intelligence system only has elementary functions. So Liang Yu's high-end goods can easily hack into her combat uniform and talk to her directly. The abrupt voice startled Zuma at first, but the current situation made her have no time to think about it. She turned sideways and dodged Cheongda's punch in a panic.
Boom. A
large piece of ice under her was directly smashed to pieces, and the hard snow within a few hundred meters was cracked with spider web-like traces. Who are you? Zuma asked, panting, and at this time, she could only try her best. Liang Yu's voice continued, I will help you deal with this guy. There is a yard 3 kilometers northeast of here, where more than 100 women are imprisoned underground. I want you to rescue them. If you agree, I will help you right away. Zuma was shocked when she heard this, and she said ecstatically, Do you know where they are? We are here to find them. Among those people are my sisters. I accept your conditions. Liang Yu took a deep breath, raised his head suddenly, and reached out to put down the mask. Okay, I'm coming. Chapter 1275 Saving People. Seeing that Zuma was about to collapse, the smile on Cheongda's face became more and more cruel. The angry face of the angry King Kong, coupled with the wild laughter at the corner of his mouth, was full of evil feelings, which made people feel cold all over. But suddenly, Cheongda's raised fist did not hit it, because he felt a gaze on him. A strange person of his level is extremely sensitive to everything around him. Especially when a master appears without concealing his breath, it is like a burning flame appearing around his aura, and it is impossible to ignore it. Huh? Cheongda turned his head in confusion, but saw a woman covered in combat uniforms not far away, holding a picked-up demon pestle in her right hand, staring at him silently. Reinforcements? Cheongda muttered in his mouth, but his eyes became more excited. However, he did not look at Leang Yu again, but turned his head and punched Zuma in front of him. Kill this woman in front of you first. Zuma dodged awkwardly, but was hit by the air wave and flew backwards, almost unable to stand on the snow. A voice sounded in her ear. Don't resist. Zuma subconsciously relaxed her resistance, and then sank into the shadow on the ground. Before Cheongda could react, Leang Yu had already rushed behind him with the demon pestle. Boom. The two powerful reinforcement-type aliens fought together. Leang Yu's strength was stronger than Cheongda, especially in terms of skills. But Leang Yu's purpose this time was just to contain him. Otherwise, if she really killed the commander of the private soldiers of the Pudge family, it would make things worse. Moreover, in order to conceal her identity, she had to deliberately hide her strength. But even so, Cheongda felt frightened after several fights with her. In the entire snowy plateau, there are only a handful of such powerful reinforcement-type aliens, and he can call out the names of those few people. Among those people, there is definitely no such trick in front of him. However, the opponent was obviously using the tantric fist and foot kung fu and the demon-subduing pestle, which made him extremely suspicious in his heart, wondering which force's hidden master he was. Who are you, and why are you helping those traitors? Could it be that you are a new member of the resistance armies? Cheongda said loudly, with a wild laugh on his face. Leang Yu did not answer a word, but quickly waved the demon-subduing pestle in his hand to block Cheongda's crazy heavy punches. Too weak. Leang Yu thought in her heart. In her eyes, Cheongda, who only had a strong brute force but poor skills, was pitifully weak. However, looking at the entire Huashu kingdom, there were not many people who could compare her skills with her. In this era, martial arts have declined and exist more as a form of performance. Cheongda is a master in the eyes of ordinary people, good at fighting, but he can't be compared with Leang Yu, who has been practicing martial arts since he was 3 years old. No matter how fierce Cheongda's attack was, the energy he hit turned the surf camp into ruins, but the fists that could not fall on Leang Yu were just vented on dead things. It looks scary, but it's actually ineffective output. Cheongda became more and more frightened as he fought, and finally cold sweat flowed down his forehead. The mysterious figure in front of him was too strong, and he never launched any powerful attacks from beginning to end.
It was
just that every time he made a move, he could accurately predict in advance and make his attack miss with a light move. It was like an adult teasing a weak child. You, who are you? Cheongda's voice changed a little. When did you become a big shot in the snowy plateau? Leang Yu, of course, chose to keep her mouth shut and said nothing. Now she was a little panicked in her heart. In order not to expose her identity, she had to control her strength, especially not to expose her several unique kung fu skills. In this way, Cheongda was dragged to the spot by Leang Yu. On the other side, Mu Yan brought Zuma and other members of the resistance army to the courtyard where the women were imprisoned. Most of the private soldiers here went to the front line to support, and the remaining few were solved effortlessly. Zuma and the others opened the cellar. As an extremely unpleasant smell came up, they endured the smell and went down. Zuma searched among the crowd at the first time. Soon, her eyes locked on 2 women in the grass team who were wearing long whips and had empty eyes. Then Zuma rushed over, tore the steel bars of the cell, and hugged them tightly in her arms. Mu Yan said to them, "Take the people and leave quickly. If it's too late, their people may find you here." Zuma tucked the 2 girls under her armpits and said to Mu Yan, "Thank you, we will leave immediately." There were also several rebels who took a few women and left with Mu Yan. Mu Yan frowned and didn't say much, but used her shadow to lead them away. At the same time, She also sent a signal to Leang Yu, telling her that the person had been received. Don't delay too long, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble.
Yeah.
Leang Yu felt relieved, and she continued to talk to the furious Shonda fighting. No matter how powerful Shonda burst out, she was like a boat in a storm, seemingly shaky, but always standing firm. After a few minutes, Muyen gave her information, saying that everyone had been sent to a safe place. At this time, Leang Yu decided to withdraw. According to the agreement, she had to escape from the pursuit of these people first, and then meet up with Muyen and use the powerful concealment ability of the shadow to return to the courtyard of the Pudge family quietly. However, it was not so easy to do so. Shonda and others would definitely chase after her. Thinking of this, Leang Yu frowned and looked at Shonda. Although separated by a dark mask, Shonda felt a strong breath of danger for the first time. Huh. He raised his fists and smashed Leang Yu in front of him. Leang Yu's figure moved 2 steps like a ghost, avoiding his powerful fist wind. Then she raised the demon pestle in her hand and hit Shonda's chest directly. Puff. The tip of the demon-subduing pestle sank into Shonda's chest, and his diamond-like body was broken by this blow. Shonda seemed to have lost all his strength. With such a sharp weapon piercing his chest, few people could move freely. Leang Yu stretched out his hand to pull out the demon-subduing pestle, and Shonda immediately knelt on the spot. He was almost in despair. The opponent's strength made him no longer have any thoughts of winning. He thought he was going to die. But at this moment, the mysterious man in front of him turned around and flew away into the distance like a bird. After a few rises and falls, the man had disappeared.